everyone, and welcome to the weekly wrap for August 14th, 2020. I'm Seth Miller from paxx.aero.
And I'm Maryann Simson, Director of Apex Media, coming at you today from a very hot and sticky London. We are in the midst of an extreme heat wave here in the city, so I apologize for any humming you might hear from the fan next to me, and if a bit of sweat collects on my upper lip here, there's nothing that can be done about it. But Seth, you're in the same boat, aren't you?
Yeah, boiling hot here in New Hampshire as well, and having an office in an attic doesn't help. So as soon as we get this done, I get to go downstairs and sit in the basement where it's much cooler. But in the meantime, we should probably get to some of the news, and I think one of the biggest stories up this week is that Gogo has confirmed it's in advanced discussions to spin off its commercial aviation business and sell it to a new partner or a new party, as the case may be. And so this is sort of something that's been in the offing for a couple years now. Ever since Oakley Thorne took over as CEO of the company, they've been talking about it, and now they are very, very close, he seems to think, to getting a deal done. No guarantees, but it's on the way.
All right, and like you said, Seth, this is something that has been discussed for a long time. How long have you been hearing rumors of this potential transaction taking place?
You know, I want to say going back to probably July 2018, there was discussion of just how easy it would be to split it off if they had to. You know, it's a challenge for the company because the business aviation side rebounded very quickly. It's always been more profitable and generated stronger revenues, and so, or stronger yields, let's say, stronger profits. And so that's been a challenge for them to counter that with the commercial aviation side, which is just because it's more satellites instead of the ATG ground system, because of commercial airlines taking longer for contracts to develop. It's always been a little bit harder. And trying to sort of mix the two together, it makes sense from the context of it's all internet going onto airplanes, but sort of from the product cycles and the sales cycles side of things, it's a little harder. So it's been a long time. We've had waves, sort of, I'll say, of these rumors getting stronger, and this time around, they've actually come out and admitted, yes, it really is. Those rumors are very much true, and we're working real hard towards that.
Seth, are there any rumors as to who the buyer might be?
So in the earnings call earlier this week, Oak hinted at basically three types of transactions that made sense. One is to what's currently a competitor, another service provider that could step in and sort of take on the customers. The other would be a satellite operator that would use it for the efficiency of sort of filling their satellite and the economics that come with that. And the third is sort of a new entrant kind of player, a different sort of angle on it. I tend to think it's probably another company that we know and love in terms of who's, you know, a company we've already heard of that's in the space. I think new players coming in are really hard, and it's a tough business to break into, but we'll see.
Moving along, another big announcement this week was Air Canada's unveiling of its new Aeroplan program. The changes to the program come into effect on November 8th, and this has sort of been in the works since Air Canada formed a consortium with Visa Canada and two Canadian banks to buy back the program that was once theirs and then went public in the summer of 2018. So Seth, can you fill us in on what's new and what's not new, I guess, with the new Aeroplan?
Well, the easy one is what's not new, and that's the name. They're keeping the Aeroplan name. So despite its long history, and because of its long history in the market, they decided it wasn't worth trying to change that. They think they can overcome whatever negative connotations it might have. So they're keeping the name. A lot of other things are changing. The award charts are changing. Some of the rules about sharing points are changing. You can now have a family plan of up to 8 people, and anyone can be in a family together. So you and I, who are very much not in a family, could decide that we want to share our points together, and that's cool. The program will let us do that, and we can each redeem basically using each other's points.
Great, let's do it. I know you have lots of points.
Sorry, what's that?
Let's do it. I know you have lots.
Unfortunately for you, I don't have that many in Aeroplan, so, nice try there. But, some of the other things, there's the idea of sort of being able to share elite status amongst a family a little bit better. So if there's the one person who travels a lot and has status, and they want to be able to gift some of those benefits to other people, there's something they're calling a family pass or status pass option, where you can sort of give a one-time benefit to someone else, and they can take your benefits and fly with them on a trip. a lot of interesting little neat things like that. If you're in a family plan together and you have status, you might get a discount on some of the awards. Everybody in the family plan together gets a discount on those rewards. So they really did a lot of neat things. There are some drawbacks as well, not surprisingly. I think, to me, the biggest one is probably that in 2021, they're shifting to a revenue-based earnings approach. So if you're like me and tend to fly discounted tickets very long distances, like cheap economy flights to Asia, historically, you would earn based on the total number of miles you flew. The new program is going to make you, or let you earn based on the number of dollars you spent, and it's 3 points per Canadian dollar. So, an $800 Canadian ticket would now get you about 2,400 points instead of round trip to Asia that might have been 10,000 before. One other thing I should point out that's a big change: they've gotten rid of fuel surcharges. So historically, if you wanted to fly, the $500, $600, $700 one-way surcharge that they put into the fare as a fuel surcharge, they would also charge that on rewards, and that's going away. It's no longer going to be charged on rewards, which I think is a very smart choice. And again, it makes the ability, as you said, for you to get a quote-unquote free ticket for your mother to fly across the Atlantic. Historically, that might have cost you all the points plus $1,000, and now it will just be the points. So that's a big difference.
Beautiful. Okay, changing tack for a minute now. If you've been watching the show for so long, or at least since the beginning, you'll have seen that we did an interview with LSG Sky Chefs Erdman Rauer. Seth, I think we also did the Airline Catering Association to talk about some of the new regulations coming into place. But we thought it would be good to circle back on this topic and hear from a smaller caterer/supplier to the caterers in that same environment to understand how they've been getting on since the beginning of the year. So I reached out to a friend of mine. His name's Matt Crane. He's CEO of Monty's Bakehouse, and we know each other from the long ago days when I started off reporting on airline catering a long time ago. He's agreed to join us and sort of let us know how his company has managed to pivot in some areas to keep things moving in the last few months, and how they see themselves pulling through this crisis. So without further ado, I'll introduce Matt Crane. Matt, thank you for joining the show.
Hi Maryann, it's a pleasure and happy to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about Monty's Bakehouse, Matt?
Yeah, so Monty's Bakehouse is a leading supplier of handheld snacks and meals to airlines and airline caterers around the world. We've won numerous awards for our brand and packaging design and our culinary expertise. And up until circa March, 2020, we were manufacturing around 100 to 200,000 meals a day in 7 manufacturing units right away around the world, supplying airlines including Qatar Airways, American Airlines and Air Canada. And within all of the work that we do, we're quite highly renowned for our position on the development of sustainable packaging and supply chain solutions to the aviation market.
Give us a little bit of insight of how things have changed, what you've experienced from the beginning of the year until now.
So we reacted very quickly in terms of home working and technology to just try and allow us all to carry on, but to do it at a distance.
Matt, you guys have managed to pivot in a lot of areas, and at the same time, you've found some ways to help those in need during these troubling times. So can you tell us a little bit more about some of those projects and initiatives?
I guess we have a good saying in the UK, and I think it was Churchill who this comes from, but it's that you never ever let a good crisis go to waste. So what we did almost immediately, and again it came internally from the team, was we set up a task force here to support the NHS and our local communities. And out of that, we opened up kitchens in East Surrey Hospital, and we supplied NHS trusts across the south and the southwest of the country, feeding thousands of doctors and nurses every day. In May, while this was all going on, we recognised that our local community, people were struggling. So we all knew about people self-isolating, those that were vulnerable, and some of them unable to get out to do their shopping and finding it difficult to get food to themselves. So we set up the Community Kitchen Project, which can be found at communitykitchenproject.com. where you can order a delicious selection of frozen ready meals, desserts and barbecue foods delivered direct to your door. And for every order that anybody makes on there, we provide a meal free to a family in need in your local community. So each of those initiatives in their own right, although we were really working charitably at that point and trying to think about how we generated revenue, we've extracted huge learning out of that about the healthcare sector and about home delivery and e-commerce methods of growing revenue. And that's supported a pivot into the food service market in the UK. So as that started to pick up, we are now supplying meals to hotels. We are starting to run and getting ready to run trials into education, and we're looking at the health sector in more detail as well. So out of all of that ingenuity, if you like, or that willingness to actually try and support the local communities and the NHS through crisis, we've really been able to actually make a good pivot, which is looking like it will then give us revenue to balance off the reductions that we've seen in the airline market.
Specifically in the aviation market, I understand you've made some changes to the products, sort of pivoting with what the regulations have come along and helping to protect passengers and crew alike. Can you give us a little more insight on how that's working out? So
in May, we ran some accelerated workshops to design a range of low-touch packaging. I've got one here. So a wide range of these with ambient, chilled, and also hot products that were capable of drop-ins. But all were designed around the reduction of the interaction between crew and passengers. So we sought to reduce the service touch points and also allow passengers to have the confidence that the product that they were being given was sealed and self-contained and therefore safe. And we did that in the Innovation Centre here. But we also did that in collaboration with Global Sea in Asia, who have been able to quickly bring to the aviation market a wide range of PPE items which are available from them, for example, and we've worked with them on the design of some of our packaging and put the PPE into each of the solutions we get. So you get the product, low touch, and also personal protection items inside, which is a gel pack, face mask, etc. So that we've then taken out in our own webinars out to, I think, probably in excess of 40 or 50 airlines. Now some of those have moved into production, and those are out there and readily available for anybody in the aviation market, whether an airline or a caterer.
Very cool. Thanks so much. Final topic on this week's show, getting back into the sort of digitization of the airline cabin. And this week, AERQ officially launched its efforts to enter the market. This is a company that's been around for a couple years now. They sort of launched their first product or demonstrated their first product on a Lufthansa Flying Labs to Apex Expo in 2019. And so we got to see the welcome board on that A380. It was a nifty little product. And now they're growing significantly from there, trying to expand from there into the entire cabin. So it's a interesting transition. It's the love child, if you will, of Lufthansa and LG Electronics. Lufthansa Systems and LG Electronics. So they've got two big companies behind them, a lot of technology experience, a lot of history in the airline industry, a lot of history in the electronics industry, and it's been an interesting endeavor to see come together.
Yeah, I mean, given the environment of aviation at the moment, again, I think it's just really positive to see these launches happening. And I think that the effort that they did on the Lufthansa Flying Lab last year was a good way to sort of whet people's appetites. So I feel like with this launch, we're all like, hey, haven't we heard of these guys before? But we didn't know much about them. It wasn't a robust solution. So maybe that's actually a really good tactic. I was a little confused when you told me about the story, Seth, because I was like, I know who they are already. But maybe a lot of people don't, but there is that little inkling that we've heard from them before, and I think that will help for them at this time.
Absolutely. And, I had a conversation with the directors late last week and leading up to this announcement, and one of the interesting things to me was we talked about welcome board a lot. This is basically a OLED screen that can be embedded into a cabin monument, and the idea is you put it at the door and it welcomes passengers on board. Maybe it's an advertisement, maybe it's a forecast of the weather at the destination. flight times, anything like that. You can do a lot of stuff with it. But that's a relatively static thing and a sort of, one-trick pony, if you will. And that's definitely not where they want this whole solution to be. They're thinking bigger, whether it's a translucent cabin divider that's sort of at the front of the cabin instead of that, heavy wall that you're used to seeing. You can maybe at the top have a moving map that's sort of translucent and you can see through it. Or the ceiling of the cabin can have a curved version of these OLED screens made by LG that can sort of paint the sky, as it were, rather than a static ceiling or not even the LED lighting that we're used to in newer planes. So there's a lot of interesting things like that they have ideas for coming along. And the big one to me, actually, is they started talking about becoming a provider for in-flight entertainment systems. This is not just something that gets bolted onto the existing IFE solutions, although that's possible. But they want to be in the position where, benefiting from their experience with Lufthansa Systems and the Board Connect product, really being able to deploy a full in-flight entertainment solution, in-seat or streaming, using, obviously, the LG screens for an entire aircraft. So a lot of opportunity and a lot of optimism in the company there.
Great. Well, we'll look forward to seeing how that one pans out. I think with all of that, we're going to have to wrap the weekly wrap right now because we are running long on time already. So as always, I'd like to thank you, Seth, for joining.
Always a pleasure.
And thank you everybody for watching. Please click subscribe if you enjoy this video and you'd like to stay up to date on some more aviation news and videos. Make sure you check out apex.aero and paxx.aero for daily news posts related to passenger experience in aviation, and tune in next time.
And wear a mask.